Blast from the past. Visiting my grandmother was going to be the highlight of my summer. I had not seen her in over a year. That was at Christmas when she had visited us. I also took it as an opportunity to get off campus. Midterms were coming soon. I was stressed. I had not gone to her place since I was 16 years old. I could barely remember anyone that I hung out with when I was there. I hoped that I was not going to have a hard time finding people to hang out with. Luckily for me, my cousin Tia was there to show me all the cool hangout spots. My grandmother was the coolest. She was young at heart, to be honest. She was that kind of person who liked modern stuff, but not in the cringy way like some old people made it. She and I got along really well. She was into traveling and food. She had introduced so much exotic food to me. The woman had class, so you could see why I was excited to visit her. She picked me up at the airport in her car and she drove us to her place. She didn't live in some old house that she had owned since she was in her 20s. She lived in a cute little apartment by the sea. When we got there, Tia helped me put away all my stuff. She was a short girl with pink hair and piercings. I liked her though, she was very cool. She had been the only person that I kept in touch with from this place. Hey, are any of the people we used to hang out with still here? I asked her as I unpacked my shoes. Yeah, a few of them are here. Most of them went to college or moved away. Do you even remember anyone? She laughed. Yes, I do actually, I said as I paused to think. Oh yes, I remember a chuckle bear, I said, looking at her mischievously. The look of horror on her face was priceless. She made to run away, but I was faster. I started tickling her and she burst out into laughter. It had been a game that we had played when we were little. It never got old. We were so close as cousins. She had lived with my grandma since she was 10 because both of her parents had died in a car crash. It had been difficult for her to adjust. I remember that first time I saw her, she barely said a word to anyone. But soon the wounds healed. It's like that with kids. They heal quicker. Enough, enough, I surrender, she finally yelled. She was breathless, clutching her stomach. She glared at me, and I knew I was gonna pay for it later. Shiver me timbers, I was quite scared for a moment. You will pay, she said. I simply shrugged and chuckled. So you say, I grinned. Let us finish packing, we need to go out for some fun, she said. Yes, I've been dying to see how the nightlife is here, I said. Mothers, hide your daughters, a heartbreaker's in town. She amplified her voice as if she was speaking from a megaphone. I'm so not a heartbreaker, I insisted. I beg to differ. You're quite the ladies' man from what I've heard, she smirked. She was not wrong. I was quite the player, but what she did not know was that I did all that because I felt as if I had a certain way that I had to portray myself. I did not want to be seen as some guy who could not get girls. I don't want anyone to think that anything was wrong with me because I was hiding a secret, one that I was going to take to my grave. Whatever, I'm done packing. I'm going to talk to Grandma, I said, leaving her in the room. That discussion had made me think of someone. The reason why I had not been here in years. The person I was hoping had moved to another place. For if I saw him, he would see right through me. For he knew my secret. I didn't want anyone to find out. I'd seen how people like me were treated in our town. I was not going to give anyone any reason to doubt me and hurt me. I remember what had happened the last time. I did not think that I was going to get off scot-free this time. I knocked on my grandma's door and she opened it for me. She smiled when she saw me there. Hey Josh, how are you settling in? She asked. Really well. I had forgotten how beautiful this place is. I smiled. She stepped aside and gestured for me to come in. I entered the room and sat on the armchair by the window. The cool break tickled my neck. So are you going to the beach party later on? She asked. I think so. Tia and I were thinking about going out, I said. Good. You youngsters must have fun. I'm going to play bingo with my friends, she said. I sat there for a while and talked to her. She was easier to talk to than my parents, always giving me the best advice concerning my education and my life. Later on, I went to find Tia to ask her when we were going to go out. She had already dressed up and was ready to go. I was a guy, so I was not fussy about clothes, so I just changed my shirt and we were off. We drove for about 10 minutes before she parked in the parking lot leading to the beach. There were a few people at the beach, blasting some music. From my distance, I could not see who they were. I got out of the car and made our way to them. They started screaming when they spotted the two of us. Soon, I was caught up in hugs and pats on the shoulder. I recognized a few familiar faces and some new ones as well. Their energy was good and I soon felt at home. Someone handed me a beer and I started to sip it. I talked to several people that I remember from the last time I was there 5 years ago. Most of them had gone to college and had come back for the holiday. Some of them had never left. To my relief, I did not see the one person that I did not want to see. I was relieved. I figured that he was probably out of town. But of course, Murphy's Law is a thing. Just as I was talking to Dean and Samantha, two new people that I had met, I heard a very familiar laugh. I turned around and caught sight of the back of the person with ginger hair. I hoped against hope that it was not who I thought it was, because if it was him, as the saying goes, fuck my life. He turned around and I locked eyes with him. He had grown taller and was more tan, but I could recognize those ice blue eyes anywhere. His eyes widened when he saw me, and my heart started beating really fast. I had been telling myself lies for several years now. I told myself that I did not miss him. I told myself that I did not love him anymore. I told myself that I had forgotten my first love. As if in slow motion, he started walking towards me. All I could do was stand there, glued to the ground, as he made his way over to me. I wanted him to come closer, and to turn away at the same time. Don't know if that makes any sense. As soon as he stood in front of me, I caught his scent. It nearly knocked me out. He smelled of mystery and the sweet promise of sin. I could not say or do anything. Josh, it's been years. His voice was deep and grave, his eyes refusing to let me go. I felt so naked under his gaze, as if every secret that I had was visible to him. It was not far from the truth, for he knew my biggest secret. Icarus, I said. Did you even come over and say hi? When did you come back? He asked. Today. I did not know you were in town, I said shortly. I looked at anything else but him. The ground was suddenly very interesting for me at that moment. Oh really? We could have had some fun. The way his voice sounded when he said fun brought images to my head. Images that made blood flow to certain parts of my body. I needed to make sure that I got away from everyone. I needed to talk to him alone, even if that was a terrible idea. Of course, we can still do so. You want to go and sit over there? I said, gesturing the two chairs under an umbrella. Of course, he grinned. His grin reminded me that of a wolf, ready to sink his teeth into a lamb. What the hell had I gotten myself into? We said goodbye to Dean and Samantha, and I went to sit by the chairs. I took my seat and I waited for him to say something. So, what finally made you come back here? The last time I saw you, you swore that you would not come back here ever again, he said. I wanted to visit my grandmother. The last time we spoke, I was 16 years old. A lot has changed since the last time we spoke, I said. I heard you're quite the ladies' man from what I've heard. How long do you think that you're going to be able to pretend that you're straight? He said. I said. And take your rejecting me. I got over it, but that incident was not your fault. You're not supposed to feel as if you owed the world anything. Staying true to yourself is not a crime, he said softly. I did what I could to protect myself. You were not there when I came home limping after I got beaten up for being gay by the jocks at school. You didn't endure the endless bullying I cracked. I could not deal with the pain anymore, both physical and emotional, I said. My heart became heavy as I remembered how I'd been treated. Did not want to be treated like that again. Sorry that you went through that. The world's become a lot different for people like you and me these past few years, though. Are you happy with the way things are going for you? He asked. Of course I'm miserable. I just don't know if I'm strong enough. My family, I don't know how they'll take it, I said, looking down. He held my hand and looked into my eyes. I could not help but get lost in the icy pools of his eyes. He did that to me. I know the whole thing is difficult. When I came out, my mother was shocked. It took a while for her to get used to it, but she was very supportive. My dad wrote me off at the very moment. Not seen him since he moved to England, he said. I did not know it was like that for you. You came out? I can't believe it. How did it feel? I asked. It felt as if I was exposed for a while, so fragile, but eventually I started to gain confidence in myself. It took a while, but I grew more confident, day by day, he said. Are you dating anyone? I asked. Who knows why I was asking such a question? I don't know what I was hoping the answer would be. No, I was though, a few months ago, he said. Somehow his words made me breathe a sigh of relief. It had been so long, but I still wanted him. I still needed him in every way possible. I just wondered if he would have me. I never stopped thinking about you, I said. I took a risk and plunged in. The walls that I had taken so long to craft around my heart were crumbling. I was so tired of putting up the facade of being straight. I was done. I was not going to have any of it. Neither did I, but I did as you said, and I let you go, he said sadly. I regretted it every day after that, I said. He kept quiet and just stared into my eyes. We were silent, lost in our bubble, while the world carried on around us. There you are, Tia shouted, showing up out of nowhere beside me. We broke eye contact and listened to her rumble. Apparently, we were missing in on all the fun and had to go dance immediately. She single-handedly bossed us back to the others. I avoided looking at him, but I felt his presence. His gaze burned into me. I was not going to give in. I was afraid of what I would find in his eyes. He was probably never going to forgive me for leaving him. I would not blame him if he did not want anything to do with him. So I drank. I was merry. I was laughing while bleeding on the inside. Seeing him had shaken me to the core. I was never going to be the same again. Guys, want to go to the pub? The beach is closing soon, Dean said. Several people chimed in and said that they would go. Nah, I cannot, I said. I'm going, can you take my car? Tia said. Nah, I'll drop him off, I'm not going either, Icarus said. What was he playing at? He was supposed to be avoiding me, but it looked like he was going for an excuse to get closer to me. I was not sure about how to take it. Thanks, I muttered. So I followed him to his car while the others drove off for the pub. Got in and sat quietly. Sat in silence as he drove us. Can I drop you off after I go and fetch something at home? He asked. Sure, I said. Soon enough, he pulled up at his place. I got out with him. Do not ask me why. We went up the stairs to his apartment. Wait here, he said. Then he disappeared into a room. I looked around this place. It was modest, but still artistic looking. It also smelled like him. I felt my senses plagued by him. I wanted him. Needed him. He came out a moment later. Here, this is for you, he said, handing me a bracelet. The one I had been wearing the last time I saw him. I could not give it to you back then, but I swore I would the next time I saw you, he said. It's too much for me to bear. My body moved of its own accord and carried me with it. I kissed him and he kissed me back. He pushed me against the wall and attacked my mouth with vigor. My body was intertwined with his. My soul was caught up in his. It felt like we had never been apart. I had never left his embrace in the first place. He started taking off my shirt and I unbuckled his pants. He took my hand and led me to his bedroom. He threw me on the bed and started running his hands on my chest while looking at me. My breath shortened as I thought of all the things that I was going to do to him. I wanted and needed him in a way that I had never felt before. He moved up and started kissing my neck. I grabbed his back as my body reacted to his. Everywhere he touched me, he left me on fire. It burnt me and I couldn't even breathe. Then he showed me just how much he missed me. We barely slept that night. We were each other's drug. The next day, I woke up entangled in his arms, feeling like I was the safest person in the world. I felt peaceful and content for the first time in my life. I made a decision right at that moment that I was going to be my true self from then on. I was tired of pretending to be someone that I was not. I was not sure if we were going to last, but I'm not going to let any one thought stop me from chasing my happiness. He stirred next to me and opened his eyes. Morning, sleepyhead, I said. Morning, Josh, he smiled sleepily. We cuddled for a while, just basking in each other's warmth. My stomach chose to growl at that very moment. Looks like someone's hungry, he said, wiggling his eyebrows. I am. For two things, though, I said in a sultry voice. He grabbed my ass. Well, I was actually about to say the same. Thought that you would never ask, he whispered in my ear. Yes, dear, why don't we have something to eat, I said, getting out of bed. Hey, get back here, he shouted. I laughed all the way to the kitchen. The end. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become part of our Rainbow Force, and stay wholesome.